At this time on the 757 at 6, we're joined by a special guest. He is the play-by-play man for Clemson football, men's basketball, and baseball, director of broadcasting for Clemson University Athletics. You can follow him on Twitter at @WDonaldMunson as we recap the national championship. The Clemson Tigers victorious 44-16 over Alabama last night, as you heard on ESPN Radio 94.1. We're joined by Don Munson. Don, how is life treating you out there in California?
Well, that's pretty good after a national championship. You can imagine everybody's got a little more spring in their step if you're wearing orange today.
Oh, no doubt about it. Certainly a night to remember if you're a Clemson fan and a college football fan, as you witnessed some history. Two great teams, historic teams, and Clemson putting on a performance for the ages. You've got a chance to watch this team in the Dabo Swinney era here as they're at the all-time high for football. Your impressions of last night's game and where it ranks up there in terms of the all-time performances for Clemson?
Well, all I can tell you is what our legendary SID told me after the game, and he actually said this on air. He said that was the best football performance that he had seen by a Clemson football team in his 40 years at Clemson. That included the national championship, obviously, in '81, and the one in Tampa just a couple of years ago. So I'm going to say that's the best. That's probably the best performance we've seen by a Clemson football team.
And at the beginning of the game, everybody commenting, as I'm sure you and your radio guys up in the booth are watching, it's back and forth. It's got the shootout chance to be one of those 40, 50-point games. And to me, while everybody is talking about the offense and what Trevor Lawrence did, and rightfully so, as a true freshman to put on a performance for the ages, how about that defense to shut down Alabama to no touchdowns for 3 quarters, no points in the second half? I mean, who could have envisioned that, right?
Dabo Swinney could envision it. Brent Venables could envision it. But, to see what they were able to do, especially in that third quarter now, Alabama's hand was forced a little bit because Clemson had the lead. So Alabama had to go for those situations there in the third. But to see Clemson defensively raise up and make that play, including the tremendous goal line stand that they had, I think was just kind of the capper for Clemson defensively. And that's what all those guys up front, that was the moment that they came back for, was to do something just like they did, and to see them come together as a unit, come together with one another and see their dreams fulfilled was pretty special.
And I think, us on the outside, you're around it all the time, so you're probably used to it now. How much does the personality and the swagger, the confidence, the faith of Coach Swinney, you think, rub off on these guys and has made them what they are today?
Oh, he's everything. I mean, he sets the tone for everything. People use that word culture. Mm-hmm. The culture is Dabo Swinney. That's what it is all about. And it not just permeates among his players and staff in that football operations building, but believe me, it is infectious across the entire campus and community, and dare I say right now, the entire state.
We're chatting with Don Munson. He's the play-by-play voice for the Clemson Tigers, football, basketball, and baseball. He's chatting with us here on the 757 at 6 on ESPN Radio 94.1. You're home for the college football playoff and last night's national championship. What a performance by the Clemson Tigers, defeating the Alabama Crimson Tide 44-16. And Don, as you look at this team for the season, what they did, going out with the senior group, legendary, couple of national championships here in the last 3 years, what sort of, in your opinion, being around them, what's the best untold story or thing you would like to share about this football team that's not been given enough attention nationally in your eyes?
Oh, that's a great question, and I've had to probably sit here and think a little bit about that. But, I think one of the great stories, particularly this year, was when the switch at quarterback happened, when Kelly Bryant, left the program and Trevor Lawrence took over as really, I guess, the full-time starter there in Game 5, the thing that impressed me most was the way that locker room reacted to that. Because when you have a senior and veteran-driven ball club and you see your senior quarterback that has been with you in all these drills, sweating, weight room, meetings, everything, all of a sudden he leaves the program, it would have been very easy for them to kind of turn their backs on the newly minted true freshman kid that was stepping in, and they did exactly the opposite. They came around and they put their arms around this young man, and particularly his offensive line. His offensive line, they just put their arms around him. Christian Wilkins, there's that great story where he took him to breakfast one day, or as Christian would say, the only reason he took him to breakfast is because Christian was hungry and Trevor had a car. But I think that's kind of the real story here is the way that this group of veteran leadership rallied around a freshman quarterback, and then of course that freshman quarterback, he paid them dividends last night.
Oh, no doubt about it. And Trevor Lawrence, what a performance. 20 of 32 for 347 yards, 3 touchdowns, no intercepts, shredding an Alabama defense that seldom ever gives up those type of numbers and points. And you've watched these quarterbacks from Kelly Bryant to Lawrence to Sean Watson now at the Houston Texans, even one of our lone local products from Virginia here in Taj Boyd out of Phoebus High School in Hampton. How special is Lawrence in your eyes, and how good can he be?
He's special now. He has the opportunity to be the best ever at Clemson at that position, and maybe the best ever at Clemson regardless of position. But, he's still writing his story. He's all of that. He's still got at least a couple more chapters, a couple more seasons to write. So it all really comes down to him and what he wants and how he wants to go about doing it. But there's nothing to make me think right now, being around him and watching him operate, that he won't do it. I mean, he is a special talent, and especially that arm strength. You watch some of the balls that he throws, and you can tell that defensive backs, and particularly corners, they're just not used to the ball getting there that fast. And then, of course, he's got great wide receivers to throw to. And when Coach Swinney says that the best is yet to come, don't doubt that with that young man, the best is yet to come.
That's pretty scary when you think about what the best is yet to come after last night's performance for him and the Clemson Tigers winning another national championship here. As we look at the products from Virginia, and a couple of them here really have stood out to us. Kevon Wallace, the junior out of Highland Springs in Richmond, and Clinton Farrell out of Benedictine in Richmond. Also a young pup in Jordan Williams, a redshirt freshman defensive lineman out of Cox High School in Virginia Beach. Watching the end of the game last night, a couple of them giving the recruiting pitch for Coach Swinney on the stage. What's this do, you think? I mean, certainly they've become a national name on the recruiting front, but going into states such as Virginia and moving forward, what do you think this does for them and the brand?
Well, I think it just, does everything. Once again, it just, puts the brand to the forefront. And if I'm Bronco and if I'm Joseph Fuente at Virginia Tech, I'm not liking the fact that there's kids in state that are, pushing buttons for Clemson. But guys like Clee now, Cleveland Farrell is as good of a spokesperson as you can have for Clemson football. I mean, that is a kid that is definitely all in with what's going on at Clemson. He told Coach Swinney before the game, "Don't give my scholarship away." So I don't know if he's really thinking about coming back for his senior campaign, but all I know is what he's told Coach Swinney. So I think we'll see that play out here over the next several days and maybe over the next couple of weeks, and it'll be interesting to see how that does play out. But guys like Clee, Kayvon is just an absolutely rock solid guy for Clemson in the backside of that defensive secondary. And Jordan Williams, you better remember that name, because that young man has got all kinds of talent, and he's just scratching the surface of what he's going to be.
Oh, yeah, with some of those guys moving on to the NFL with Austin Bryant and Christian Wilkins and Dexter Lawrence, you figure he is the next man up. And I go back to that because it was a Virginia kid in Taj Boyd, I think, that really set the stage for that, in that you look at, Don, I mean, Taj, he's been such a spokesman for the program, and his mom writing the book. I mean, that culture you talk about, we were seeing these players come back and keep that tradition going, right?
Oh, absolutely. Taj was probably really the key recruit for Coach Swinney, because he had to walk into Taj's house and sell him the dream. It's not like he's selling him the reality of what is. He had to, Taj, this is my dream, and you can be a part of this, the leader at quarterback, the big man on campus to make all this happen. And Taj bought into it, and of course he's done that and then some. I always say that if Taj runs for public office, he won't have any problem winning in our area.
Very true. A couple more minutes here with Don Munson. He is the voice for the Clemson Tigers football, men's basketball, and baseball here on the 757 at 6 on ESPN Radio 94.1 as a recap. Another national championship for the Clemson Tigers, defeating the Alabama Crimson Tide on Monday night, as you heard here on ESPN Radio 94.1. Two more for you, Don. Now you look at Clemson here, big bullseye. They've had it on their back. It's been them and Alabama sharing it the last 4 years with this college football playoff. 7-2 as a postseason underdog. I think it is, under Dabo, and they're now 52-0, I believe it is, when they're up 15 or more at the half, so they get in front. They're going to be a hard team to come back on. But moving forward now with a target on their back, taking a little bit away from Nick Saban and Bama, we expect them to maybe meet again next year. Your thoughts on how Clemson handles the favorite label going into the 2019-20 campaign?
Well, they've had the target on their back. One of other Coach Swinney's little sayings is embrace the target. Don't run from it. Embrace it. And Clemson's used to. Every game that they step on the field, they know that they're going to get the opponent's A game. And you see that quite often. Matter of fact, teams this year, after playing Clemson, didn't fare well. I mean, they had overall it was a losing record for teams after they played the week after playing Clemson, and I think there's a reason for that because there's so much emphasis that goes into that game, and then when you come out of that thing empty-handed, or if you're even fortunate to win, the way that Syracuse and Pitt have been in the last couple of years, even then it doesn't bode very well for you because you know that you're playing the best of the best that is in college football. Clemson's not afraid of that because they don't care about the opponent. They just care about Clemson. And Coach Swinney is always stressing to these guys, we need to go out there with our A game, and we do not let Clemson beat Clemson, and that's the way they look at it.
I'll get you out on this. Switch it up to basketball. I know you got that coming up next with the men's basketball against Syracuse. Boy, the ACC, there's never an off night, is there?
No, there's never. This is the way it's ever been since I was a young kid, starting to watch ACC basketball back in the late 60s. It's always been this way, and it's always a juggernaut.
Yeah, very much so. You go from Duke to UVA. Well, final thoughts on the basketball team, where they're sitting right now, and I guess their potential and ceiling in your eyes.
Well, they got good senior leadership on this basketball team. They need to knock down on turnovers. The turnovers have been just way too many, and I know that's something that Coach Brownell is very concerned about, and he should be, particularly going into this game with Syracuse, because Syracuse is going to press you a little bit, and then they're going to play that zone pressure. 3-point shooting hasn't been really good this year for Clemson. They're all of a sudden, I think they're really feeling the effects of missing Gabe DeVoe in that situation. But they've got some answers. They just now those answers have to kind of start stepping up and playing a little bit better basketball for them. I think that tomorrow's night's game there in Syracuse is a big one for Clemson. If they can figure out a way to get out of the Carrier Dome with a win, I think that would really give this team a boost. Because next up is Virginia at home Saturday at 12 noon. So it'll be a short turnaround to take on what right now is an undefeated Cavalier ball club.
And playing just rock-solid defense as always under Coach Tony Bennett. Don, thank you so much. That's Don Munson with us. You can follow him on Twitter, @WDonaldMunson. He is the play-by-play voice for Clemson football, men's basketball, and baseball, and the national champions. Getting another 757 product as Sheridan Jones, defensive back at Amory High School in Norfolk, has signed with them for next year. Don, have safe travels, and we'll talk soon.
All right. Appreciate letting me spread a little gospel of Clemson. Go Tigers.
You bet. Go Tigers. Don Munson with us here on the 757 at 6 on ESPN Radio 94.1.